On 5 News, the row over the Calais refugees. There are calls for more rigorous checks after some MPs say the children look more like adults.
Let's do what we said we were going to do, which is to help children, but let's not abuse the hospitality of the people of this country by having the rules bent by people who are in their 20s.
But how do you check someone's age when they have no ID? Also tonight, the bitter battle for Mosul. New video of the coalition assault on the Iraqi city, filmed by those who are doing the fighting. And this is what is waiting for them. New Islamic State propaganda from inside Mosul, warning of the bloodbath to come. Making history on Mars after a 7-month voyage, Europe's space agency touches down on the red planet for the first time. And the British-born runner breaking marathon records at the age of 85. Hello, welcome to 5 News. I'm Matt Barbet. They're being brought here to start a new life, away from their war-torn countries in the squalor of makeshift camps. But the young migrants being resettled by the government from Calais are now at the centre of a row about their age. One Conservative MP says they should be given dental tests to prove how old they are, saying some look older than 18. That's been condemned as unethical, but the Home Office admits that when it does investigate children's asylum claims, many do turn out to be adults. Our political editor Andy Bell reports.
More arrivals from Calais today. They've been allowed into the UK under a system that unites unaccompanied children with family members. Because they are officially under 18, we've been asked not to show their faces. But on Monday, it was the appearance of some of these which provoked surprise and a campaign for more checks to establish if all these young people were really under 18.
They seem very surprised that they've ended up here.
One MP who's been to the so-called jungle to make a documentary wants a change in the rules and more checks.
At the moment, they're screened on the basis largely of appearance and answers to questions, which they could have been coached in. And if there's any, they're always given the benefit of the doubt, because that's what the government guidance says. And all I'm suggesting is, in the light of what we've seen, the fact that we know that activists will be coaching people in what to say, we need to update that guidance, and where there is room for serious doubt, that we ask people to undergo an X-ray.
But there are no plans to make changes in the way the children are screened. The Home Office says all individuals are interviewed by French and UK officials. Where credible and clear documentary evidence of age is not available, criteria including physical appearance and demeanour are used as part of the interview process to assess age. Measures like dental x-rays to establish the age of migrants have been ruled out. That's backed by the dentist professional body.
Taking an x-ray of a wisdom tooth, which is what we're talking about, and deciding from that whether somebody is actually 18 or not is almost impossible.
Azizullah is an Afghan boy who has been cleared to come to Britain.
I'm very happy and I want to join my brothers in UK, and I'm very happy today. Also, I appreciate this progress in UK government.
There should be more to follow him, but the Home Office must make sure that adults posing as children are not making a mockery of the system.
Andy, how much of a problem is it if people wanting to come here for genuine reasons are lying about their age?
Well, clearly the Home Office believes that they have a system which is working in that particular case of people coming from Calais, because they have no plans to change the system. There are going to be no extra tests put in place, I'm told. But they did tell me that there is a bit of a wider problem, because in the year to the end of June 2016, they told me that of applicants for asylum in this country coming as unaccompanied children to be reunited with family here, the Home Office investigated, and in 636 cases of applications like that, the Home Office decided that the people involved were not children, they were in fact over 18. So clearly there is a wider problem, one which the Home Office has to keep on top of if the public is going to maintain confidence in this system.
Thanks very much indeed, Andy. Thousands of people in the Iraqi city of Mosul have begun to flee as the battle to liberate it from so-called Islamic State continues. Aid agencies say many of them have now crossed into Syria, which is, of course, also gripped by war. 3 days into the operation, both IS and coalition forces are releasing footage of the fighting in attempts to show that they have the upper hand. Julian Drucker reports.
battle for Mosul will take weeks, if not months. And filmed via a body camera on a Kurdish fighter, we can see and hear the intense dangers facing him and a team of Peshmerga fighters. The self-styled Islamic State may be crumbling, but there are still large pockets of resistance. There is a propaganda war too. This video, released by IS, attempts to show what awaits them. In stylized scenes which could have been taken from a TV drama, defiant militants patrol the streets of Mosul, threatening humiliation on forces attempting to free the city. I swear, I swear, I swear, says this militant. United States, you will be defeated in Iraq. You will leave once more humiliated and disgraced in defeat. In the middle of it all, thousands upon thousands who have fled Mosul. At the Dabaga camp for the displaced, food is scarce and space is at a premium. The manager says every day between 100 and 150 families arrive here. These families comprise around 600 to 700 people daily, every 24 hours. The United Nations says it's preparing to deal with what may end up as the biggest man-made humanitarian crisis in recent times. Julian Drucker, 5 News.
One inmate has been killed and 2 others are critically ill in hospital after a stabbing at Pentonville Jail in North London. 2 prisoners have been arrested after the attack yesterday. It's prompted prison governors to call for a public inquiry into the state of jails in England and Wales, saying the tragedy was no massive surprise. And radio DJ Tony Blackburn has announced he is returning to the BBC, months after he was sacked over evidence he gave to the Jimmy Savile inquiry. At the time, he said he was made a scapegoat by the corporation. He'll be back on Radio 2 in January. A robot the size of a small car is aiming to make history on Mars. The Schiaparelli probe is due to touch down on the surface of the red planet in the last hour, which would make it the first ever European spacecraft to do so. Its mission couldn't be more important or inspiring, to look for signs of life past and present. But back here on Earth, scientists have an agonizing wait to find out if it's been successful, as Catherine Jones explains.
At Mission Control in Germany, they're on tenterhooks. In the next 20 minutes, they should learn for certain if the European Space Agency has managed a successful landing on Mars for the first time ever. This simulation shows what's been happening 110 million miles from Earth. After 7 months travelling towards Mars, the Schiaparelli lander detached from its mothership this afternoon and set off for the planet's surface. The prime purpose of this mission is to get this landing right. A parachute must deploy, the heat shield must detach, then thruster rockets must fire, all to slow this half-ton probe from 13,000 miles an hour to walking pace, so it gently drops onto the Martian soil.
Now, all of this has to work perfectly in order to make it down to the surface in just in one piece. So it's very, very tricky to get this right in a place like Mars.
Schiaparelli itself will only operate for 4 days, taking weather measurements. But if today's landing is successful, the same technique will be used in 4 years' time to land a European rover on the red planet and drill beneath the surface for evidence of life.
They're drilling deeper beneath the surface than ever before to explore an environment that's protected from the harsh radiation of the sunlight that hits Mars and provide somewhere that we can search for complex organic molecules, the building blocks of life on Mars.
It's 13 years since the Beagle 2 mission ended in failure. For the European Space Agency, today marks the start of a brighter future.
What we're doing today is the first step on a long journey which will involve, hopefully in the near future, sending a spacecraft to Mars to bring samples back, not just to drill beneath the surface, but bring them back to labs on Earth. And beyond that, of course, what everybody's really interested in is sending crew to Mars.
A manned mission to Mars may be a distant prospect, But today's landing should go a long way towards making it possible.
Looking for real Martians couldn't be more important, Kathy, but they're still on tenterhooks, still waiting to hear.
That's right. We know it has done its 6 minutes of terror, as the ESA have described it. I'm not sure if that's how they're feeling or whether it's about going through the Martian atmosphere. But we have to wait till around 5:30 our time to get a signal back from Schiaparelli that takes 10 minutes to cross space from where it is at the speed of light. But what's going to be really interesting, fingers crossed that happens, is the data it sends in overnight that they can analyse by the morning, which is the photographs that Schiaparelli took every 15 seconds as it plummeted down to the Martian soil, because that's what's going to tell them whether all these techniques they've used to try and slow it down effectively have worked, and whether that means they'll be able to use this method to get probes, hopefully with much bigger, more expensive scientific payloads, down onto Mars in the future.
Kathy, thanks very much indeed. Look, I hope it does land before we go off air at 5:30, and if it does, we will let you know, of course. Now, the President of the United States of America had a message for the man who wants his job last night. Stop whining. Barack Obama was speaking out at Donald Trump's repeated claim that the election has been rigged in favour of Hillary Clinton. He said it doesn't exactly show the kind of qualities needed for the job. As Layla Hayes reports, though, Mr. Trump doesn't appear to be taking it on board.
Hillary Clinton is the most corrupt ever to run for the presidency.
This is familiar territory for Donald Trump, and for his supporters, the now regular cries of "lock her up." But he's no longer just criticising Hillary. Mr. Trump now says the entire election is rigged.
We're going to end the government corruption, and we're going to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. They even want to try and rig the election at the polling booths, where so many cities are corrupt, and you see that. And voter fraud is all too common. And then they criticize us for saying that.
At a news conference with the Italian Prime Minister, President Obama said the claims were unprecedented.
I have never seen in my lifetime or in modern political history any presidential candidate trying to discredit the elections and the election process before votes have even taken place. I'd advise Mr. Trump to stop whining and go try to make his case to get votes.
Later tonight, Las Vegas will host the third and final debate before the election on November the 8th. Voters seem as divided as ever.
My mind's already made up. I'm voting for Hillary.
I hope Hillary falls off the podium. How's that?
Polls now show Hillary Clinton to be around 7 points ahead of her Republican rival. Donald Trump says the polls are wrong.
I don't believe the polls anymore. I don't believe them. I don't believe them. And if there's 10 and if there's 1 or 2 bad ones, that's the only one they show. Believe me, folks, we're doing great.
Tonight, both candidates will go head-to-head for the final time. If Donald Trump wants to have any chance of winning, he needs to do something special here. Layla Hayes, 5 News.
Still to come on the programme. Must try harder why Britain is falling behind when it comes to tackling lung cancer. And never too old to break records, the British-born 85-year-old who's showing up runners half his age. All that and more after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. Leading health experts are calling for drastic improvements to stop so many people in the UK dying from lung cancer. It is one of the deadliest forms of the disease. Only 1 in 7 patients living longer than 5 years after diagnosis. Olivia Kinsley's been to meet one person who has survived.
Jane Holmes is proof of how indiscriminate lung cancer can be. She is fit, doesn't drink and doesn't smoke, but 2 years ago she received the diagnosis.
I always associated lung cancer with older men in a pub, in a smoky atmosphere. I didn't really think I'd be more alert for breast cancer at my age, so it was a shock. I was told that it was incurable, inoperable, and really we were looking at palliative care.
Lung cancer is the UK's biggest cancer killer. Nearly 35,000 people die from the disease every year. That's more than breast, bowel, bladder and uterine cancers combined. Over the last decade, mortality rates from lung cancer have fallen by only 6%. Compare that to other cancers and it is less than half the rate, and 1 in 8 of all deaths are among people who have never smoked.
Firstly, I think we need to raise awareness amongst people about lung cancer and make the government prioritise patients with lung cancer. Secondly, I think we can improve pathways in primary care and in hospitals so people get treatment faster. And thirdly, and most important, I think we need to implement screening for lung cancer.
Although it was risky, Jane found a surgeon who was willing to remove her tumour. She says you must push for the treatment you need.
My view is no one cares about it as much as I do, so I'm going to ask. If they say no, that's one thing, but if I haven't asked, it's me that's potentially waiting another week with the tumour still in me.
A year later, Jane's scans are cancer-free, although she knows it could come back.
Lung cancer might get me in the end, who knows? So I kind of take the attitude of live each day anyway, and if you don't feel ill, don't be ill. And so far, things are working out. Touch wood.
She's training for a marathon. Every day, another small step. Olivia Kinsley, 5 News.
And best of luck to Jane with that. Now, people in Yorkshire are going to the polls tomorrow for a vote brought about in the most tragic of circumstances. The by-election in Batley and Spen follows the killing of Labour MP Jo Cox, who was stabbed and shot outside her office in June. Many people there are determined to honour her memory, and for them, that means making sure that they do vote. From Batley, Simon Viger reports.
In this corner of West Yorkshire, the finale is playing out in the by-election no one wanted. One of the signs that no one wanted it is the scarcity of posters in Batley and Spen. For this was the seat of the late Labour MP Jo Cox, who was killed outside a constituency surgery in June.
She's not coming back, is she? And it's real.
We were given the vote, so we use them.
Yeah.
I think it's wrong not to use them.
Yeah.
I've voted Labour for 45 years, but not while Corbyn's there.
And not even now in these circumstances here?
No.
My big emphasis must be on trying to get everybody out.
Apart from Labour, the main parties are not contesting this by-election, but several on the far right are.
We need the strength in numbers. There are some fringe candidates standing, 9 of them, and they're not who we are, Batley and Spen, so I'm just encouraging everybody to come out and vote.
Jo Cox is integral to the election, and the new candidate was a friend.
And as we were door knocking, she was a fantastic advocate for women in politics, and she'd say, Tracy, you should be an MP. And obviously the irony is upsetting, but I got to know her. I saw how vividly she could make a difference. Even on the doorstep, people were really engaged and wanted to work with her and wanted to help.
Do you feel that she's sort of watching over you a bit?
Well, she's in my heart, actually.
Please, Mrs. Brennan.
This is a second career for Tracy Brabin. Her first was in soap operas, including Coronation Street. Are there any crossovers, do you think?
I don't know.
I mean, most people watching this will know you from...
Yeah, I suppose public speaking and trying to have the confidence to get your message over. That somebody once said that politics is showbiz for the ugly, I don't know. But that's hopefully will be me now, and yes, I'm really looking forward to it.
It is the by-election no one wanted, in a corner of West Yorkshire where they'd much rather have the one person they can't. Simon Viger, 5 News, Batley and Spen.
Here is the full list of candidates standing in tomorrow's vote in Batley and Spen. Now, how long would it take you to run a marathon? How about under 4 hours? I couldn't do that at 34, but Ed Whitlock has managed just that, and as you can tell, he's not your average athlete. In fact, he's 85 years old, and now he's also a record breaker. Minnie Stevenson has his story.
These marathon runners are in the presence of the fastest 85-year-old in the world. Ed Whitlock ran the Toronto Waterfront Marathon in Canada in just 3 hours and 56 minutes, setting a new world record in his age group and breaking the previous one by more than 30 minutes.
But I've done that before. I don't think it's one of my best world records.
Just to be clear though, British-born Ed's proudest moment is running a marathon in 2 hours and 34 minutes, back when he was in his 70s. It's a record that still stands. Although Ed has 36 world records to his name, he'd rather not brag.
perseverance, I guess, patience.
Today via Skype from Canada, his friend Mikkel Kaprul told me this pensioner will put you through your paces.
It must be hard to keep up with.
About 20 years ago in the mid-90s, and I saw this guy with gray hair, white hair, just flying past me, and I was like, I must be so slow. This really old guy is beating me every race.
And forget retirement, Ed has a 5-year running plan.
Hope to set the 90-year-old record. Hopefully I'll still be running then and can attempt them.
And while you are only as old as you feel, Ed's heart is still in vintage clothes. He broke his new record in a 20-year-old vest and 25-year-old running shoes. So no excuses then if you haven't got the latest kit. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
No excuses if you haven't had a go. It takes all sorts, as you can see. Now, that's it for the time being. I'll be back, though, at 6:30 with 5 News Tonight. We'll have lots more on that row over the refugees arriving in Britain from Calais. Should there be tougher checks on their age? Let us know what you think. Get in touch via our Facebook page. I'll also be joined by an entertainment legend. Donny Osmond is going to be here to tell me about 50 years in showbiz. Looking forward to that. The original Donald. Shah Welby is here with Weather Next. I'll see you again in an hour. Bye-bye.